environmental issues facing our nation today, but we would like to focus on air pollution in Indianapolis. Sustainable principles are essential to addressing air pollution. Air pollution is the manifestation of poor sustainable principles on a personal and city planning scale. Through Indianapolis, we see a smaller city with a stigma of Midwest rural farming. Its sustainable principles, however, led it to be among the poorest of the nation's air stewards. What we want to explore is the issue of air pollution, how it affects Indiana, and the strategic implementation plan we've come up with called City Pollution Prevention Initiative, how it can positively affect the community and the environment. There are many necessary methods to preventing air pollution in a community, which is why we wanted to implement an education agenda for systematic change rather than a single policy. To effectively change the source of a city's stewardship, we have to effectively change cultural attitudes toward the issue. So first, to really understand the issue of air pollution, we have to know how it's defined. Air pollution is the presence of chemicals in the air at levels high enough to harm humans, other organisms, ecosystems, or human-made materials or objects. With every breath you take, you inhale not only life-giving oxygen, but also small amounts of other gases, along with tiny droplets and small solid particles of various chemicals, some of which can threaten your health. This is what we're talking about. So that definition specifically came from Norman Myers and Scott E. Spoolman from the Environmental Issues and Solutions book. But we want to also give a definition and explanation via America's Health Rankings, which is going to be commonly referenced in our presentation, and basically it explains the disparity in the air pollution issue in Indiana with how we've ranked in consecutive years amongst the lowest. So air pollution is fine particles in the air we breathe, and a population-weighted average exposure to these particles 2.5 micron and smaller for each county reporting within the state. Air pollution is important to aspects of health in the environment and impacts of health. So how it specifically will affect humans in Indiana is why we want to look at this and why we think it is so important. Air pollution is widespread, affects a large number of people, and can have severe health effects, especially on young children and older adults. Fine particles in smoke or haze can penetrate deeply into the lung tissue and have adverse effects on the heart and blood vessels. People exposed to fine particles over a long period of time have more heart and lung problems than people who are not exposed, and the exposure has been shown to increase premature death in people suffering from heart disease and lung disease. Large particles can cause eye, lung, throat irritation, which is actually going to be why in Indiana there are so many kids who are missing school. In the highest level of air pollution districts, there's up to 14,000 days accounted for that kids have missed due to being revealed to air pollution. Exposure has also been linked to increased respiratory symptoms, decreased lung function, asthma, chronic bronchitis, irregular heartbeat, and heart attack. Asthma is one of the most common chronic childhood diseases. So ranked amongst the three worst cities for air pollution in Indiana is first Beech Grove, second Indianapolis, and third Gary. Two being so close to the Indianapolis and the south side, its proximity, there is so much premature death, kids missing school, and just the quality of life is dropping. Primary sources of particles include motor vehicles, forest fires, electrical power plants, and industrial process enriches. Again, this came from America Health Rankings, and the reason we wanted to share this study is because this study has ranked Indiana amongst the lowest performing in air clarity, and we're actually ranked the fourth worst nation. Another source that we need to bring up when talking about air pollution and just accountability is the Clean Air Task Force, which is an environmental research and advocacy group. and they actually released that 100,000 people in Indiana live close enough to oil and gas operations that put their health at risk due to air pollution. And so, though as a city we are lacking in sustainable methods that protect the air, as in we all drive separate cars, our public transportation is lacking, there's a lack of people who are willing to ride bikes, and just in-home practices of overconsuming and not shopping locally. There is also a governmental and a corporate level of lack of stewardship that needs to be addressed. The study is based on information on the oil gas threat map, which is people that live half a mile threat zone from oil and gas development. What we basically want to share is that in Indiana, the Clean Air Task Force reports that there are 7,400 active oil and gas wells, compressors, and processors within 55 schools, 4 hospitals within threat radius of these operations. The report says that about 19,000 asthma attacks occur every year in Indiana are linked to oil and gas production, and there are 14,000 lost school days because of it, which is what we referenced before. And so when we're thinking about this, we just want to be able to look at, now that there's already a city planning issue, how can we prevent moving forward and educate people on the fact that air pollution is such an issue, and it isn't even an outlandish sustainability issue, but it's directly affecting the way that we live. So what we want to do, which is what I referenced in the introduction, is create an initiative that is pollution prevention. So what this will look like is it will be two-tiered. It will be changing the culture in terms of reaching the children. So in schools, in a required course for elementary and middle school, we'll be explaining everything from in-home stewardship to government advocacy and just the amount of impact that we have as a community on getting things done in policy. And we'll also be talking about threats that come with negative air and how we need to change the stigma. And so the course will essentially be education on sustainable practices, why they're important and why they've been lacking, and how our city has failed thus far. By doing this, we hope that there will be raising a new generation that sees the validity in protecting the air and protecting the earth, as we previously were just ill-informed. The second tier will be an actual domain launch where via social media, and there will be a website domain and a live stream of the city. And what it will do is give the resources needed. So there are so many platforms that are giving active air counts. Then right now Indiana says that we have good quality, but that doesn't match to the population, and it accounts at a larger scale and isn't exactly precise. And so what we want to do is give an Indiana specific to our culture, where we want to be, and give an active way to show where we're standing and how we can change that. And so current policies, current movements, being able to lobby for more bike rides, open up a web domain. On the web domain there will be a ride share, and just being able to become more connected in a movement that is sustainable. So by implementing this initiative, we'll not only be addressing air pollution and educating the community, but also be making people come together for the common purpose of saving the air.